Hello everyone. In today's tutorial, we are going to look at how to install Codesys Control Runtime on a Raspberry Pi in order to run Codesys applications on the Raspberry Pi and basically turning a Raspberry Pi into a PLC. And we are going to go through a few steps. The very first step you have to do is, if you haven't done that already, is to have Raspberry Pi OS installed on your Raspberry Pi. So that is the first step we're going to do. Okay. So I have a Raspberry Pi 3B. You can see it in this shot over here. And to install Raspberry Pi OS on your Raspberry Pi, you need to download first what we call a Raspberry Pi imager. So if you go to this website, raspberrypi.com/software, you will see this Raspberry Pi imager software here. You can download it from here, depending on the operating system you're using. We're using Windows for this tutorial, but it's also available for Mac OS and Linux, basically Debian or Ubuntu. So download the Raspberry Pi imager for your operating system, and then install that. Now to install, you need an SD card if you're working with older versions of the Raspberry Pi. If you're working with compute modules, it's a kind of a different kind of setup altogether. But we are concentrating on the older versions of the Raspberry Pi. So I have an 8 GB SD card here with me. As you can see, this is my SD card here. I've put it in this adapter in order to be able to plug it in my computer. But it's an 8 GB SD card that would work. I'll go ahead and plug it into my computer here. Now I've already installed the Raspberry Pi imager. So I'll come here, I'll start the software. You can see the Raspberry Pi imager. And now I'm ready to install Raspberry Pi OS on my SD card. So first I'll choose a device. So like I said, I have a Pi 3B. Select that. Select the OS that I want to install. I'll use this Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit. That is the recommended here. And then the storage here, I should be able to see my SD card here. As you can see, it's right here. So make sure you can select your SD card from the list here. And then you click next. And then here, usually, I don't want to customize anything. If you want some special customization, please go ahead and do that. But I don't want to customize anything here. So I'll just click, would you like to apply OS customization settings? I'll just say no. And then this one is just a warning that all the data on the SD card will be erased during the installation here. So you want to continue? I'll say yes. And now the process has started. Will take a little bit of time, so let's wait for that to complete. Okay, installation is now done and it's doing some verification. Let's wait for that to finish as well. And now our installation has completed. And we should go ahead now, remove the SD card and put it in the Raspberry Pi and then boot it up. And we shall have to do some few configurations along the way, but one of the most important things is to enable SSH. Set up an SSH username and password, because those are quite critical in this the whole process. So let's go ahead, remove the SD card from the computer and then plug it into our Raspberry Pi and then continue. Okay, now I've plugged my SD card into my Raspberry Pi, and now I'm doing this initial configuration that is needed here. So this is the welcome screen here, and then it's showing me here the IP address. So I have this cable, Ethernet cable that is plugged into my Raspberry Pi, and it goes and plugs into my router there, so it gets this dynamic IP address. So it's good to know my IP address because we're going to need that later as well. So I'll go next. I'll select the country here. So country is FFF. So go up a little bit here. So Finland right there. And then the language, I'll keep it, I'll use English. Then time zone right there. And then the keyboard as well. Click next. And now we need to create a username, and this will be the same username and password used for SSH. So create my username as Pi, and then password there, and then I'll enter the password again, and then next. Okay, so I've used the default username, which is always Pi, and then password different there, but it doesn't affect me at all. And then here it says select your Wi-Fi. I don't want to set the Wi-Fi because I'm using the wired connection there for my Ethernet internet connection. So click next. Default browser, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to use any browsers in this. So just click next. And then the update here, I think I can skip this. I can update the OS later. And then I think that's it. That's all we needed here. Main part was knowing our IP address, and then also knowing configuring and setting the SSH username and password there. And we are good to go now. We can launch. So we won't need the desktop here because we are going to be doing most of the things over SSH. So really, the desktop, we don't really care much about it, but we are just completing the setup, and then we shall be good to go. Okay, so we are now launched in. The very first thing we want to do is to enable SSH. So we'll open the terminal here, and then I want to, sorry. I want to run rasp config. Rasp config. Okay, so I need to run it as sudo. I'll go back again here, sudo rasp config. And then I want to go to interface options. And then I want to go to SSH. And then I want to enable SSH. And then now I've enabled SSH, and I should be able to access my Raspberry Pi over SSH, which is the goal here. So see, state server is enabled, click OK, and then I'll just finish here, and then I will reboot. And then now I can disconnect the screen here because we don't need the desktop, and then we shall switch to working over SSH. So let's do that. Okay, now we are going to continue over SSH. So the first thing that I want to do is to connect to the Raspberry Pi over SSH. So I'll use the SSH command, and then I put the username, which is Pi, and then add, and then I put the IP address of my Raspberry Pi. So that is 192.168.1.36. And then we want to add it's just a warning here, so just click yes, and then we put in the password, and now we are in. So that is all we wanted to be able to do here. So our SSH connection is working. Now, if you want, now we can run the update command here to update the OS and continue things of the kind. But those we can do anytime. So let's go ahead and now start the installation for the Codesys Control Runtime. Now, for the installation of the Codesys Control Runtime on the Raspberry Pi, we need a few things. Number one, we need to have the Codesys IDE installed on our computer. I already have that here. So if you don't have Codesys already installed on your computer, please go ahead and do that. That's the very first step. And then we need the runtime installation files. So what you have to do is you have to go to the Codesys store website. You need a username and a password. It's free to create. It doesn't cost you anything. Go ahead and create an account, log into your account, and go to the Codesys store website. As you can see from here, this is the main landing page. And then what we want to do is we want to go under soft PLC, and then under Linux, and then we scroll down. We are looking for Codesys Control for Raspberry Pi SL right here. So this is what we are looking for. It's 55 euros for the license, but you don't need to have that right away. You can, of course, use it in trial mode. But if you want to use it for in production or for anything else, then you need to buy a license. But it's you can start even without buying the license in trial mode, so that is a good thing. So I want to click on that, and then this is the page where we should download the installation files from. I'll call them package files if you want. And you can read in through here which interfaces are supported. You can see we have OPC server, we have can open, we have Pi camera, we have I2C interface, SPI, we have one wire, we have even GPIOs. Codesys web visualization as well, web visual right there, so it's a good thing. And then have this SL extensions as well. You can read over those field buses here. We have multiple of those. We have Ethercat, can open, or with Ethernet IP, we have Modbus, TCP and serial, Profinet, and things of the kind. So go over those, but the main part or main thing that I want to show you here is the versions here. So this will I'll give you the latest version. So the latest version is 4.18.0.0. You need to read a little bit on the requirements here because this is very important. So you see that you need to have a Codesys IDE or development system version 3.5.17 or higher. So this is very important there. So my Codesys version that I have is I think it's 3.5.20. So I'm good with that. But I can also get the latest Codesys version. It doesn't matter really. And then supported platforms is all Pi models, as you can see from here. And then and additional requirements here, you can see that the operating system should be Raspberry Pi OS, 32-bit or 64-bit. So we are good to go. And then dynamic libraries needed by Codesys Control Runtime binary. These are the libraries that need to be on your Raspberry Pi. But I believe these are compiled libraries, so these will be installed when installing the runtime. I believe so. And basically, that's it. You can read more. There are some restrictions here. For example, if you're using Raspberry Pi 5, there are some restrictions you need to read about here, but we're not worried about that. And then also some storage space here. SD card minimum 4 GB. We have 8 GB, so still we are good with that. So please read through the requirements there. And then, for example, if you want, this is the latest version, but if you are looking for older versions, for example, you can always come here under versions here, and you'll see all the different versions that have been released over time, and you can read at which fixes were made, which bugs were fixed from the previous versions, or if you're looking for a very specific version as well, you can always come here and select the version that you want. But otherwise, we are going to go with the latest version here, this 4.18. And then we can just go back here and then click download. Read the license agreement, and then accept, and then the download should start right away. And we shall wait for that to complete and then proceed further. All right, our download has completed. Now we are going to install those the package. So open a blank project, go to Tools, then go to Codesys Installer, or you can even open Codesys Installer as a standalone application there. It doesn't matter. And then what we want to do is we want to install add-ons So you can see all the add-ons that you have installed here. But if you want to install a new add-on or a package or a plugin, then you come under here. So you say install files. And then we browse our file that just downloaded right there. Select that and then click open. And then the installation will start. And then there is some warning here. So it shows you the packages that are going to be installed right there. And then the dependencies as well right there. Now, then we click OK here. Then yes, and then the installation starts. Then let's wait for that to finish as well, and then we shall continue. Okay, we have to accept some prompts here. For example, accept license agreements here. So it's showing you what is going to be the packages that are going to be installed, and then we click continue here. And then here it's telling us that to continue, we need to close this codesys.exe. So basically, we have to close this IDE here, and then we can continue. So let me go ahead and close this, and then we continue. I've closed that, and then the installation has proceeded. So let's wait for it to finish, and then we shall continue. And then after a few minutes or seconds, then depending on the speed of your system, now it says the add-ons were successfully installed. Then we click OK here, and then now we can continue on the next step. Now what we've done is we've installed the add-ons that we need to install the runtime on our Raspberry Pi. So basically, we've extracted the runtime files. They're now on our computer, and the tools that we need to install those runtime files on our Raspberry Pi. So the next step now is to transfer those files from our computer here onto the Raspberry Pi, and that's what we're going to do next. Okay, now to install the runtime on the Raspberry Pi, so open the Codesys IDE one more time. You can create a blank project. We don't need it really, but we want the IDE. So we have opened the IDE here, as you can see. I'll push this out a little bit here so that we can see what's going on. Now go under Tools, go select the Deploy Control SL tool here. So select that, and the first menu tab here is about the communication. So what we want to do is to first establish SSH communication with or connection with our Raspberry Pi. So go ahead and put in the IP address of your Raspberry Pi. We know ours is 192.168.136, port is 22, or if you have multiple Raspberry Pis and you even don't know which one has which IP address, you can use the scan tool here, so you can scan for all the devices that are accessible to your computer. So you can see after a brief scan that we can see different devices here. So you can obviously locate which device you want to connect to based on the MAC address or whatever. But I know my Raspberry Pi is definitely this one here. And I can click OK here. Then I just put in the SSH username, that is Pi, and then the password here, which is there. And then now I attempt to connect to the Raspberry Pi. So I click Connect. And if my details are correct, the IP address is correct, the username is correct, and the password is correct, then I should get status connected here after a short while. So I have connected there, so I'm good to go. Next is the deployment here. So I'll go to deployment, and we need to select a few things here. First, we need to select the product. So we are installing control runtime for Raspberry Pi. That is what we want. I have other installation files for different control or for other runtimes. For example, I have installation files for Edge Gateway for Linux. I also have installation files for the virtual control for Linux SL. But I'm interested in this, so you should be able to select this Codesys Control for Raspberry Pi. And then the version. So apparently I have two versions. So I have an older version, this 4.13, but we want to install 4.18. That is the one that we just downloaded from the Codesys store right now. So I'll select the version that I want to install, and then I should be able to install that. So I'll go ahead and say install. Now this will take a while, but you can see the status from down here. It says installing Codesys Control for Raspberry Pi, and we should wait for that to finish. So let's wait for that to finish, and then we shall continue. And then during the installation, it will also tell you that you need this Codesys Edge Gateway for Linux. And we want to install that as well, so we shall click yes here. And after a few minutes or seconds, again, depending on the performance of your hardware, we should be able to see our installation under the installed packages down here. So you can see now I have Edge Gateway. Edge Gateway is usually used for establishing connection with the target device, and then the runtime is down here. So 4.80.0.0 and 4.18.0.0 for the Edge Gateway there. And we are now good to go. Now, like I said, so after installation, of course, the runtime should be started automatically. Every time you boot your Raspberry Pi, it should be started automatically, but you can also start it manually. You can start the runtime and stop it whenever you want to. So when you go under operation, we should see what is going on. So you can see that under services here, we have Codesys Edge Gateway for Linux running and Codesys Control for Raspberry Pi also running. So that is a very good sign that our runtime is now running correctly. Our gateway is running as well, so that means we can establish connection to the Raspberry Pi without any issues. So that is the whole process of how to install the Codesys Control runtime for Raspberry Pi on your Raspberry Pi.